In working with the 2-point perspective grid, we have an eye level, always conscious of our eye level, where we are, where our eyes are in relation to what we're looking at and what we're going to draw. The difference is that we're going to be looking into the corner of everything we draw rather than the front of it. So we need 2 vanishing points. So this is our left vanishing point and our right vanishing point. We're using the left vanishing point to find the right wall, and the right vanishing point to draw the left wall. Each box on the grid represents a foot by a foot. They're equal-sided boxes. Even though the closer they get to us, they become distorted, they still represent a foot by a foot. And the back corner has all of our measurements. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our eye level is at 5 feet, 6, 7, 8. So we have again an 8-foot ceiling. Often if we'll be working with a floor plan, most always, so we can start by drawing that floor plan view in perspective. So we know on the floor plan it will tell us how big to make this box and where to place it in the room. So this particular box, I'm going to make it a square so that we can draw an ellipse in it, a circle. You need an equal-sided box, as you remember, to do that. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes from the corner, 6 feet, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes from the right wall. Now, to begin to draw it, you begin with the corner that's closest to you. Rather than the front or the side, we're beginning right with the corner. Now, we don't know how long we're going to make it, so it's always good to go a little larger. Remember, cross corners are another way to make your work look a little more professional. And if you don't have verticals up, it's going to be hard to size this box. There'll be nothing for the perspective lines to meet up with. So you've got to start with your verticals. So the floor plan view first, if you can manage it, if you can do it, if you know the proportions of it on the floor and the placement on the floor, and then you begin to bring your verticals up. So now I'll walk this over to the wall. Either wall, the closest is usually best. I'll walk it over to the wall. And where it touches the wall, I go straight up. I should always also say at this point that you don't have to stay within the box. It's just like the 1-point perspective grid. We could choose a quarter of the box or a half of the box. It really depends on how big you're going to make whatever it is you're making. So let's bring this up to 3 feet. So I walk the 3 feet across to meet up with my box, and then I will know exactly where 3 feet in height is. From that one dimension, I can continue on and get the rest of my box. And every time my perspective line crosses a vertical line, it tells me to turn around and go the other way. Now, this is an equal-sided box, so I can confidently make an ellipse in this box. And we go through the same procedure as we did with our 1-point perspective. I make an X to find the center. I take the center to the vanishing point, both vanishing points in this case. A lot of people find that 2-point perspective is easier to understand and easier to work with, since when we move around in the world, things are never usually all facing us the way we need them to be in 1-point perspective. Generally, they're at different angles, many different angles. So it might just be that people understand the look of it more readily than 1-point perspective, where everything needs to line up squarely. Okay, And you take your time with that. And then it's just a matter of rounding out, and we'll end up with an ellipse just the way we would have. Remember, always you're trying not to fill it up too quickly, the box. To get an ellipse, you need to leave those spaces where the circle does not fill the box. And also in this case, to come over far enough. That can be a problem for some, that you don't fill enough of the box over on this more distorted side. When I chose this box, I was trying to find one that wouldn't be too distorted like the parts that are out here. So now to put something on the ceiling, as we're always putting light fixtures on the ceiling, it's the same idea. You count out your squares, however many away from the wall you need them to be, and however you need to place them. You count out your squares, you use both of your vanishing points. And even though I have lines there, I still line up with my vanishing point. I need to consult it constantly to make sure that everything in this particular drawing is coming from the same 2 points, the exact same position. And never allow your vanishing points to become too large. If you do, they become inaccurate. And I'm using, it's better if you have this lined up with your parallel rule, but I don't have that luxury here, so I'm using the lines of the grid down below to make these boxes. So this now is hanging like our pendant lights did in our last assignment from the ceiling, and it's a matter of figuring out now how low I can hang this. And remember, we decided the most that we can do is 6.5 or 7. So if I take 6.5, I have to walk this over to the wall and get the same point. You see, when things are out in the middle of this grid, I have to take my measurements from the wall, as if I could push this up against the wall and bring whatever I want in terms of a measurement forward to the object itself. And it's just a matter of moving back and forth between the vanishing points to get what I need. And I'm using the corner of the object now. Now it lines up with my wall at the back, but that doesn't matter. They haven't any relationship, not any whatsoever, because this is out in the middle of the room. So you have to always be conscious of what you're doing and what you're after in order for this to work. Now what I'm after now is for this line to line up with this, so that that's my underside. So this is the underside of my light right here. It has nothing to do with the wall itself. You can break into the wall to place our shelving, and the grid no longer applies. The measurements no longer apply when you do that, but you can take measurements from the side. So if I want to bring this in a matter of 2 feet, I can just take what 1 foot is right here and mark it off and use that as 2 feet. But I can't use the grid itself anymore. I have to use whatever is close to it to make that work. Okay, bring this down. So this now is inside the wall. It's an inside plane. And it would have an underside, so I'm using this where those two lines meet to show my underside. And a lot of this has come from having a picture in my mind's eye of what it is I'm after. So that's quite important, that you do enough of this, that you practice a lot, so that you know what to expect to see, what you're expecting to see. Otherwise, it will make things difficult. You won't know what lines should tell you what to do, to tell you to turn the other way. So you have to have a picture in your mind's eye of what it is you're after. We would put in the depth of the shelf and use this vanishing point. So you only have 2 vanishing points to consult, and you're either using one or you're using the other. So that does make things a little easier in some ways. This would be inside. If we wanted this to disappear as a hallway, say we have a 7-foot doorway here, and we wanted it to disappear down a hallway, you again pierce the picture plane by putting in a line, and that hull it diminishes quite quickly, gets much smaller very fast, and you may not think that it looks right, but it is right for this. And if I want it to go the other way, once it gets here, I can have it go the other way once it gets to the end of this. Now our grid doesn't count back there. We can't use the measurements, but we can show that this is actually going inside. So you can also build out from the wall. So all of this is possible depending on what it is you're after, what you're trying to show. We're going to take a look at how to put something in 1-point perspective inside a 2-point perspective grid. Every time you get a grid, you need to make sure that you're very aware of where the eye level is, and make the vanishing points as little as you can. This one on this side was a little large. So we know where our 2 vanishing points are. To draw something in 1-point perspective, you have to find a line on the grid in which it bisects each of the boxes right in half, corner to corner. So you start from the corner of your grid and you look to see, move it, move it, move it, until you find the spot where all the lines line up, all the corners. So here we go. We've got this corner lining up, and this one, and this one, and this one. So we're on the right track here. So instead of just drawing it on the floor here, I'm going to bring it right up to my eye level. And that's where you find your single vanishing point for drawing things in 1-point perspective. And of course, to draw in 1-point perspective, you just think of that sofa that we spent such a great amount of time figuring out. And remember how you started that first box. You can put this 1-point object anywhere. It can hang from the ceiling. It can't be on the walls. It can't be there because they're in 2-point perspective. So you have to keep it on the floor. Now remember how they start. We start a 1-point perspective box by drawing a straight line, as if you could draw this line with your parallel ruler. That would be the best idea. And it's facing us all the same distance, so you start with a box that doesn't have any perspective at all. And what you're looking for by using the vanishing point is how much smaller it will appear at a more distant view. Now, if I want to know how high that is, because each of my boxes on my grid represents a foot by a foot, all I have to do is use one of my vanishing points to bring this to the wall, the bottom to the wall. I'll bring the top to the wall. This isn't a part of my box, it's just a part of my discovery. And then where this hits the corner of the wall and the floor, I bring that up and it meets the top. So this box that I've put at this point on my grid, I just need to find out one corner. How tall is one corner? And I know how big the rest of it is. But it's 2.5 feet high. That's how big it is. Now I don't need that anymore now. I need this, though, to draw the rest of the box. And as soon as you have the top, you're going to have to decide on the depth. So you could choose anything that you liked. If you map this on your floor plan, you'll know exactly where to place it, and you'll know exactly how deep to make it, because you'll have chosen it to be a certain size. Now this is unfortunate. It lines up with the vanishing point. I'm going to just bring this over so I can make a better choice on how deep it's going to go. So you just go ahead and make a 1-point perspective box the way that we've been doing it for quite some time now. And if I follow this across, remember it's always important to draw the hidden parts of the box as well. So that's how big it is. And on your floor plan, you will have placed this carefully and decided how big you wanted to make it. So you'd have coordinates on your floor plan that would work. So this will just help to clarify what the 1-point box would look like. Now, as opposed to a 2-point box, where you use only these 2 points and you start with a corner. But there will be times when you have a 2-point perspective drawing and you want to keep it from looking so formal, everything all going in the same direction. So having this at your disposal can make your drawings look even more realistic. So here's our difference, the difference between the two. You'll notice too that verticals always remain straight because they're the same distance from us throughout their length. They don't need a vanishing point at all. So, and with 2-point, we have 2 vanishing points to consult. Just keep it going. So that's the difference. And you see, you could really make things different. If you have a chair turned at a slight angle, it's going to be a little more inviting, perhaps a little more informal. Or it could be something as simple as a planter or something, a decorative item. So it's important to notice that these boxes that are in 1-point perspective, they bisect the boxes corner to corner, just the way our initial line did that we needed in order to find our single vanishing point. If you were to map something out on your floor plan, that's exactly how you would do it. If you want something in 1-point perspective over here, you bisect the boxes right in half. And in half again. And then you see you would map these up on your floor plan, on your perspective. You'd have 4 coordinates to find. So this one would be 3 boxes back and half a box in from your carpet.